So my favorite little cancer baby has decided to create a video on Blair White. Though I don't agree with everything she says, I believe that what he says is retarded, and I need to speak out about it.
For some time now, people have been demanding that I respond to this girl. She has an itty-bitty channel, so I didn't really want to pay her any attention, as giving her attention, of course, only benefits her. But after enough harassment from you people, I've decided to finally respond to her video. Her title—
Why is it whenever feminists and SJWs get bothered, they automatically proclaim it's harassment?
is Onision rages about feminism and looks stupid.
You do look stupid. You look like a really creative gay terrorist.
Before I get started actually responding to your video, I want to congratulate you on the fact that you're not forced to wear a burqa, thanks to, of course, feminists.
Or it could possibly be the fact that she's not a part of Islam, so she doesn't have to wear a burqa.
Now prepare yourselves for statements from a woman clearly benefiting from many feminists who came before, shitting all over them, because after all their hard work, she has the privilege to live in a society that is nowhere near as harsh to her as it was to many women who came before her.
Hey Onision, so I heard you like being cucked.
That's how you're gonna start this video, with something you heard? What I actually enjoy is having sex with two amazing women, and I do so with zero remorse. Maybe do more research in the future, so you don't appear so ignorant.
So in case you don't know who Onision is, he's basically what happens when you combine a Pokemon hentai fetish, a spare chromosome, and 20-something years of sexual repression.
So she just threw all Down syndrome people under the bus in order to take a jab at me. As for the alleged 20 years of sexual oppression, I lost my virginity at age 14, and
I lost my virginity when I was 2.5.
sex literally thousands of times since then.
First of all, you man whore. Second of all, I demand video evidence!
But you get a gold star for trying. Feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the grounds of political, social, and economic equality to men.
Congratulations, you read a dictionary definition. I can do that too.
Did you just use Urban Dictionary in response to me using an actual definition? Do you actually—
Alright, if you want to go down that road using an actual dictionary definition,
consider Urban Dictionary a credible source? Because if so, this is going to be a rough ride for you. The definitions I use are part of the foundation of the English language. Literally anyone can go to Urban Dictionary and define whatever they feel like, however they want. And how about I prove my point right now, to really get you to understand how foolish you're being. Oh wow, looks like Blair White isn't defined yet. Since you seem to think Urban Dictionary is such a credible source, let's define Blair Whites as black and white wildcats you tend to see roaming city streets covered in their own vomit and urine. Make sure you—
Is that really the best you got?
tweet at Onision when you posted this definition to Urban Dictionary, so we can all celebrate these wonderful Blair Whites and their majestic feline ways. Because people say stupid shit like egalitarianism is better than feminism, even though it's basically the same thing. They both call for equal rights.
Actually, it's not the same thing, and the very definition that you cited in order to decimate everyone shows that. Feminism operates in the sphere of women's rights. It's right there in the definition. Egalitarians are concerned with the rights—
No, Onision, she was using a definition to prove you that feminism and egalitarianism are different. You, on the other hand, were trying to explain why feminism is God.
everyone regardless of skin color or gender. It's a very important distinction to make, and it's one that you could have easily made if your IQ was anywhere above -6.
Wow, that would be a really good point you made if I didn't literally say basically the same thing.
So I can say basically and get away with anything? Alright, I hate niggers, basically.
Even though it's basically the same thing. Even though it's basically the same thing.
Basically the same thing.
Actually, it's not the same thing.
Instead of literally the same thing. You then go on to say,
it's a very important distinction to make, and it's one that you could have easily made if your IQ was anywhere above -6.
Meanwhile, again, you seem to want to be perceived as a credible person, and yet you stated I have an IQ that doesn't exist. If you only took the time to Google it, you—
She was making a fucking joke. I'm starting to think you actually do have an IQ of -6.
of course, would have known that. And over 1,000 people voted. 69% of feminists believe that—
Hey, 69, am I right?
women are equal to men.
Whoa, look at Onision dropping truth bombs with the Twitter poll. Much science, very truth.
Since that time I made the video, the poll got over 12,000 votes. Regardless of how valid or invalid you think a Twitter poll is, you're still looking at 12,000 people who stated what their beliefs are. 11% of the people who voted, identifying themselves as feminists, said that women are superior, and 15% voted inferior. 11% and 15% almost cancels itself out. We like to invalidate things on Twitter when they don't agree with us, but you and I both know well, just because something's on Twitter doesn't mean it's invalid.
Weren't you the one who just said a few minutes ago that using internet definitions or polls or statistics that anybody could vote on or type about is not valid, credible source.
This is one of many examples of important statements made on Twitter that is not degraded by the fact that it's on the site. You disregard that poll because it's simply not convenient to you. People utilize this
No, she disregarded the poll because it was a biased study.
same tactic on a regular basis. Polls don't agree with them, they immediately try to invalidate them. And
No, we check our facts and statistics, unlike feminists who just use the first thing that looks like it's an oppressed women. Like, you get the 1 in 5 women are sexually assaulted, or 1 in 4, or 1 in 3. You know, you get all these fucking numbers. Why? Because feminists don't use the right poll, or they use polls, and they include intoxicated sex and regretful sex all in the same study.
you ignoring 12,000 people, that takes a special kind of stubbornness.
And you know, Onision, it's really interesting you're making this argument. I mean, do you remember when you said this?
Personally, I've always felt that women are superior to men.
That lack of self-awareness, man.
Just one request, work on your editing skills.
Personally, I've always felt that women are superior to men.
That lack of self-awareness, man.
You keep cutting off statements. And it's super annoying because it makes it look like I'm the one who doesn't know how to properly edit videos when I'm responding to your video. As for you pointing out that I think women are superior to men, I think most women are superior to men. But as
You basically said, I don't believe women are superior to men, but I believe women are superior to men.
I established in previous videos, a belief that a gender is superior does not equate to hypocrisy when a person is fighting for equal rights. Just because I think ice cream is better than cake doesn't mean I'm going to try and stop people from eating cake. In fact, if they're both consumed equally, that's fine with me. I just personally like the ice cream more. So the point you were trying to make was actually completely pointless. And as you obviously don't know, I identify as a feminazi.
I'll hooters!
You should really watch my previous videos before speaking of me further, because you clearly don't know what you're talking about. You prioritize your closed-minded personal experiences over the fucking truth.
Yeah, and you are prioritizing your allegiance to a dictionary over the truth. The word feminism was created in the 1890s. 1890s! To pretend as if the movement hasn't changed since then at all, or to stick your bobblehead so far in the dirt that you don't see that the actions of third-wave feminists have greatly turned off a lot of people from the movement, is stupid.
She's clearly stating that the definition of feminism is not accurate to what feminism represents today. And she's only able to do this because she immediately wrote off this poll that thousands of feminists voted on, clearly pointing out that the majority of feminists believe in equality. That's how people continue living their lie. They're faced with facts, they immediately state it's invalid, and they continue their narrow-minded mindset that's focused on a negative rather than a positive. Here's a couple feminists at a rally. They look peaceful, they look happy, they no doubt believe in equality. But this is super boring, right? There's no violence, there's no screaming, there's no chaos. So of course we'll never hear about it in the news because we are a society that loves to focus on the negative. If you
Sure, let's not focus on the negatives. The Nazis created the Volkswagen, the first national highway innovations in film, as well as work laws. Also, they ended the vivisection, so you should probably be happy as a vegan.
guys have any experience with watching the news, you will very likely 100% agree with me. So what do? We turn feminism into something like this. This awkward, weird situation becomes one of the only things we want to focus on when we think of feminism.
Because that's how feminists are presenting themselves. All stereotypes come from something that is true.
Anymore. Here's a normal, peaceful rally. Someone holding up a sign, "Stop killing women," which guess what? Many women are killed for doing things that men can do without being punished. One example is this man beating a woman for allegedly removing her burqa. Meanwhile,
Welcome to the wonderful world of Islam that you SJWs and feminists are protecting.
that man's free to walk around without a burqa. And obviously that is one of many reasons why feminism was and continues to be important in the world in general. But back to my point, the majority of feminists believe in equality and wish to fight for women to have equal rights. I proved that in a poll that you conveniently ignore. Meanwhile, you
Bias study!
have no poll of your own proving feminists believe any different. So I think for now, we'll go ahead and go with the only person who actually has evidence.
Feminism is not synonymous with women's rights.
Oh my god, did you really just say that? It's in the definition. The definition is the same in the Cambridge Dictionary. It says basically the same thing in the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and dictionary.com also agrees. If you went to a college...
Oh my gosh, your inconsistencies are horrible. You start, hey, complain about somebody using a dictionary definition. Then you use like 7 fucking dictionary definitions in a row.
and you didn't respect definitions, you would flunk out.
Being against feminism does not mean that you are against women's rights. It means that you're in opposition to the ideological framework in which feminism operates under.
In 1848, a bunch of people gathered for the sake of women being treated equally, for women have voting rights, etc. Now I know you and your ignorance want to believe that feminism hasn't accomplished much since then. It's super convenient for you to have your position, as hating feminism is a pretty popular thing right now, due to a lot of people online having an incredibly uneducated perspective on feminism. And
no, you are the uneducated one. We are the ones who started with an unbiased thought, looked it up, did our research, and came out with our conclusion. You, on the other hand, thought, hey, women are oppressed, let me prove it.
somehow the inability to focus on anything but negative when it comes to feminism. Thanks to feminism in 2016, women were finally allowed to have any job in the military. Thanks to feminism, these events also occurred, one of the most important being the rights women have when they're victims of violence, including victims of trafficking. Even still today, women are struggling with having rights to their own body.
Because, of course, the right to kill a baby that's living inside of you is a right.
As for some crazy reason, some people seem to believe that even when a woman is raped, she is not allowed to abort the baby she was impregnated with by the rapist.
They have the right to abort their babies. Some people's beliefs are different. And their beliefs, they are living human babies and they need to be put up for adoption if you can't take care of them.
Because of course they no doubt have a religious agenda and care more about their made-up fairies than the victims right in front of them. Thanks.
You're allowed to have the religion and have religious opinions. It's in the First Amendment. It's the reason why you're allowed to make this video right now.
Feminism, you can't discriminate against people based on sex. Yeah, this is why feminism is great. In fact, if you're a woman and you're sexually discriminated on, you can actually sue people. And that too is fucking awesome. Again, rape is a huge problem even in our first world country. And thanks to feminists, rape victims have more rights against the people who sexually violated them. Now,
before feminists came along, men were about to create rape as a capital offense.
I'm only 2 minutes into your video, but I am going to go ahead and stop because I'd like to spend time with my family at some point today. But I think I've more than thoroughly established how uneducated you are, and also how obviously ungrateful you are. You, the person who's clearly battling against feminism, could very well be raped. And without feminism, the person who raped you would have even less of a chance of seeing any time in jail than he already does. And on top of that, if you got pregnant, in a society without feminism, you would be forced to have that baby. And additionally, without feminism, you could also potentially be forced to marry the person who raped you. It's in Deuteronomy 22:28-29. Long before feminism had a foothold. Thanks to feminism, you don't have to spend the rest of your life maritally shackled to the person who sexually violated you. But if that individual didn't want to marry you, then guess what? Without feminism, he won't be forced to pay you child support. So here you are, a victim of a horrible crime, forced to bring a rapist's baby into this world, with no possible punishment given to the rapist. Thanks
You act like everything was just hell before feminism.
to people like you using ignorance to fight against people who would fight for you. The majority of people do not commit crimes. The majority of people are not extremists. The majority of people live peaceful lives. Most of us know all this to be true because we've gone out in public and seen how consistently orderly things tend to be in the majority of this country, which happens to be primarily low crime areas. So considering how non-extreme most people are, wouldn't you think that most people who fight for women's rights are also non-extreme? They simply want equality between the genders. That does not make them an extremist. That does not make them something negative. It makes them decent. So in the future, instead of fighting against people who are fighting for you, you simply saying thank you would suffice.
Fuck you. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like or subscribe. Not because I told you to, but because you want to.